Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Tanabata, the thank you campaign, which comes out every year, usually around this time in Japan, but now they've changed the schedule so that it syncs closer to the global side of things. So it syncs closer to the global kind of center of things, and this is going to come out in September. So we kind of already have a hint. If you look at Twitter, well, not a hint, but if you look at Twitter, they mention there will be an event coming out in September. They mention a little bit about the thank you stones that we get every year. So all of that's going to remain. Now, how Tanabata works is traditionally it's been a dual Dokkan Fest. So usually it's a dual Dokkan Fest, or alternatively it's obviously featuring like an LR as well. It's not as big as an anniversary, it's definitely not the same size as an anniversary, nor the global campaign, but there's a lot of great rewards. It's kind of like the big free kind of like giveaway type thing that players get every year. You get your thank you stones, which is always awesome. On top of the thank you stones, you get a whole bunch of other great rewards, so it's usually just a great time. Now, in terms of what we've had, obviously this year we've had quite an array of characters. So we've had quite a lot of Majin Buu Saga stuff since last year. We've also had a fair chunk of Future recently. We've had GT Heroes recently. We've had, I would say honestly a decent amount of Hybrid Saiyans, especially with all the recent EZAs and work being done. We've had TNs, we've had General Taos. We've had a Cell, we've had a couple Cell Saga moments. So, we've had a pretty varied year. When we look at what the potential is, so obviously, kind of recently in the global campaign, we really covered GT, a little bit of Future. We also covered a little bit of Hybrid Saiyans. So for me, kind of count these ones out when you're talking about what's coming for Tanabata. But I think Tanabata has potential to be movie orientated. It's not that I think it's guaranteed to be movie orientated, but we haven't had a big movie celebration in a while. Haven't really had a big buff to movie heroes since probably WWC last year. And even then it was more direct Kamehameha Son Goku buff than it was movie heroes. We're due the Cooler and Goku as EZAs. And honestly speaking, movies has probably got the most potential. We haven't touched it in around about 10 months. So it would make sense, aside from like a couple Janemba EZAs and the AGL Goku Vegeta. Remember also that because it's usually a dual TUR, at least that's traditionally what it's been, but it's not the rule. It's not a rule that it has to be that way. It doesn't have to be super and extreme either. So although we look at that, movie heroes, I think movie bosses could be a good way to go. It helps out most teams. Movie bosses probably needs a little bit of love if it's an extreme team. Then we have Daima, always mentioned, always talking about Daima, but it's due to come at some point. Dokkan, although traditionally behind Legends with these kind of reveals, definitely is kind of nearing the point where it needs to really kind of look at Daima. But then also superheroes, specifically superheroes hasn't got a direct buff in a while. That kind of Beast Gohan Piccolo kind of situation is looking a little bit tantalizing. And when you consider that they really have a thing for reversible exchange units this year, a Piccolo Gohan reversible exchange, Orange Piccolo, Beast Gohan, could be interesting, obviously provided they somehow come up with enough animations. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, it is going to be super interesting to see what we get for Tanabata. So I am actually really interested. I'm super duper keen, and I'd really love to hear what everyone kind of has as a suggestion, because for me personally, I really think there is kind of like anything can go really at this point. I think outside of GT and Future, and maybe Majin Buu Saga, I can't really see getting a buff. I think pretty much every other category could do with a buff right now, especially with considering the short form content. What kind of content we get during Tanabata remains to be seen. But definitely, with all the short form content, yeah,